I am joined as ever by my friend Adam from Plugged In. Hello, Adam.
How you doing, Andy?
I am not too bad. Just been trying to scoff some dinner down, which is always good.
Yeah,
You are not in your usual surroundings. Where are you this week?
I am in Austin, Texas. Actually, if we want to get really technical, I am at in Round Rock, Texas, which is about 30 minutes north of Austin at the Kalahari Resort, where I'm speaking at a conference this weekend, a homeschool conference.
Oh, okay,
So,
cool.
yeah.
That sounds genuinely fascinating. I like that. One of my writers on my magazine is Sherry Seligson, who does a lot of homemade conferences in the US.
Okay.
She's
Well, maybe I'll bump into her.
she often does lots of the keynote talks because she's a marine biologist.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, that's good.
Cool.
Right, complete tangent. Okay,
Yeah.
movies, books. Last week we went. It wasn't a bad thing. I think it was great that we actually talked about the real personal individual heart behind you and all the team at Plugged In and why Plugged In matters to each of you. So we looked at that really, which was not intentional, but I love the incidental awesomeness. So let's dive into some reviews today. Where are we going to start?
Well, let's start with Superman. That is the big one that is out this weekend. And it stars David Cornsweet, which honestly, I think if my name was Cornsweet, I might think about changing it. It's just odd, right? To say it. He plays Superman. I'm sure he's a lovely person. So David, if you're listening, forgive me for making fun of your name. He plays Superman. And if you have been following at all what's been going on with DC, which of course is the comic publisher behind Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, etc., you may be aware that they are rebooting it. And it is being run now by James Gunn, formerly of Guardians of the Galaxy fame. So, he brought a certain flair and panache to Guardians of the Galaxy and a sense of humor. And that got him this other gig. And so now he is rebooting the DC universe, and Superman is the first entry. He said that he really wanted to get back to like a comic book accurate depiction of Superman and not so crazy dark and gritty and grim. And I think he succeeded at that. This feels like, I won't call it a kinder, gentler Superman, but not nearly as I don't know, dark. That's the word, as the last couple rounds have been. And of course, he finds himself opposed by Lex Luthor, who is played by Nicholas Hoult, and played well by him, I think. Rachel Brosnahan plays Lois Lane, and Skylar Gisondo is Jimmy Olsen. So the whole gang is here. He's in Metropolis. He's saving the world. He's fighting crime. And Lex Luthor shows up and basically says, this guy's an alien, like literally an alien. Why would he be humanity's hero? And so there's certainly, I think if you squint a little bit, it's not too hard to see some political commentary, shall we say, here. I don't think it's so over the top that it ruins the movie, but I think it's there if you want to find it. I think more to the point, we get a very heroic Superman. We get comic book violence and a fair bit of PG-13 in the U.S. Profanity. So I could have done with a little bit less language, honestly. This one, I was mildly disappointed by how much language there was, but it's pretty much what we would get in any Marvel movie these days too. So pretty good. Critics seem to like it. Audiences seem to like it. It's Superman. How far wrong could you go?
Well,
plus Crypto the Superdog is in too. He's awesome.
Exactly. So I remember when Batman was on the TVs. It was a funny comic book series. Yeah. It was very light-hearted. It was very goofy and silly. There were words on the screen. It was all very happy and comical in a sense. They always got the bad guy, and the bad guy wasn't that bad. And then they went down a very, very dark path where you saw the bad guys weren't just bad. They were truly truly evil, and they were happy to
Yep.
come, inflict violence. And I guess they were trying to get to much more of an adult audience. I would assume, being slightly cynical, that adults have
Yeah.
more money than children, and therefore, the darker we go, the more adult the content, the more we can potentially use this for revenue.
Yeah, no, that's right. And if you know anything again about the history of The Dark Knight, which came out in what, 2007, 2008, it was based on a 1986 graphic novel by Frank Miller called The Dark Knight. And in 1986, that was really a watershed moment, I think, for comics embracing the idea that superhero stories could be for not only something adults could enjoy, but actually stories written for adults, not for kids. And so that was really a turning point, an inflection point in the history of comic books. And so when they made that into a movie, it reflected that sort of real world grit and grime. And, for somebody who was tired of cheesy comedy, spandex Batman, it's a powerful movie. But I also think, sometimes I get a little bit world weary with all of the anti-hero stuff, right? Whatever happened to just a good old fashioned superhero? And for the most part, I think we have that here. So I think James Gunn has done a good job of bringing that back to the fore, not without some issues, but maybe a reset in a little bit more accessible way.
Sometimes a reset is a very good thing. Where else can we go?
Well, that is a terrific question, and it's one that should not catch me by surprise, but here I am, flat-footed, as if we have never done this
What
before.
did I come here to do?
Did we talk about Lorde last week?
I don't think we did. No, I don't remember that. No, because we were just talking more about Plugged In and the heart behind why you exist.
Yep. So last week, I reviewed Lorde's new album. It is called Virgin, and it debuted at #1. And if you're sort of racking your memory banks, I know Lorde has some hardcore fans that are still out there. Most of the rest of us remember Royals from 2013, and we're surprised to know that she's still making music 12 years later. But she is. She is a young woman from New Zealand, and she did something sort of wildly controversial this time around and included some very explicit, one very explicit picture of herself with the vinyl. And so it sort of begs the question, did this thing hit #1 because, all of a sudden everybody remembered that they loved that one Lorde song from back in 2013? Or did it hit #1 because people were curious, perhaps in some not so healthy ways, about that part of the album that she's released? Now, having said that, the album deals a lot with sexuality. But even as she sometimes sings about promiscuity and some of her experiences, she also kind of deconstructs the fact that it's not really working for her, that she feels empty, that she feels lonely. And so at Plugged In, we often call out sexual content in entertainment when it doesn't, line up with what Scripture has to say about God's purpose for sexuality. And so this was an unusual sort of review in that I thought, do you really have to objectify yourself like this to get attention? And yet there's some self-awareness there too, that she continues to try to explore these paths that, if you look pretty, you don't even have to look that closely, and you see this isn't working for her. And so I thought it's an interesting snapshot of where we're at culturally, because when you throw God out the window, for a lot of people looking for meaning and purpose and how do I make sense of life, sexuality rises to the top. And certainly our culture emphasizes it a great deal. And so here I think we have a young woman who is looking for a level of meaning and purpose in that part of her identity, and she's not really finding it. So I thought, okay, there are some problems here, but some interesting sort of observations that maybe she doesn't even know she's making.
I know sometimes you'll watch a film and they try and make a point with the film that might be quite political or what have you. And then we're sitting there thinking, well, I think they've just really defined really rather well why God said we should do it that way. And
Exactly.
sometimes they so perfectly, accidentally show why the thing they're trying to make as a positive is really not a positive.
Yeah, no, that's right. And I think she is, well, I don't know what her intent was with the picture, but with the music itself, we get a very unvarnished and raw look at a young woman who seems actually pretty desperately unhappy. She doesn't seem like she's in a great place. And she's pretty honest about that. So again, I think we review all kinds of things at Plugged In because different kinds of entertainment influence us in a different way. And I think with music especially, and I think you and I have talked about this, it influences over and over and over and over again. And I think young people identify with their favorite musicians in a way that they probably don't identify with their favorite video game or TV show or movie. There's something deeply personal about music specifically. And I just wonder what the influence of Lord's reflections on this part of her life, I wonder how people are going to respond to that. And for people who love her, if you listen to them over and over and over again, what is the fruit of that going to be? And I can't answer that question, but I know that music, because it connects so deeply with us emotionally, I think music is the most influential entertainment medium for kids that are really wired that way. So that's why we talk about it.
Which you and I definitely have spoken of, because I absolutely emphatically agree with you. Music is so emotively powerful in either good or bad ways. I don't think any music really just sits in the middle. I suppose pop music, people think, well, it's kind of middle of the road. Well, I don't think so, because I'm not that big a fan of pop music. It doesn't sit in the middle for me either.
And even if it is fairly innocuous, right? Even if it doesn't have a deep message, you think about your favorite movie versus your favorite music. And, maybe you've seen your favorite movie 50 times or 100. You have listened to your favorite musician and favorite songs probably thousands and thousands and thousands of times. And so it just, I may lose my mind at some point and not know my name, but I'll still probably be able to sing Living on a Prayer by Bon Jovi. It's kind of just, it's hardwired into my cerebral cortex. And so I think that we want to help our kids, I think, ask those questions. What is it that you connect with here? What do you like about it? What do you identify with? Where does it say, this is my music and these are my people? And, if you go to a concert for a big musician, it's a tribe, right? You see people dressing a certain way, acting a certain way. Like there's so much identification going on there. And it's fascinating. My son is a huge fan of the emo band My Chemical Romance, and we're going to see them in Los Angeles later this summer. And we've seen them a couple of times in the last few years, and it's always just, it's interesting to me to watch the My Chem fans, because it's a tribe. They act a certain way. And to a certain extent, I connect with that. And to a certain extent, I might be too old, but there you go.
I will issue no commentary on that whatsoever beyond what you said. Adam, if people want to connect with all the reviews that Plugged In are pushing out all of the time, where do they come to?
You come to pluggedin.com, and we are part of Focus on the Family.
Adam, thank you. Enjoy Texas, and we'll speak again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Andy.
Here at Pure 24/7 Radio, we have had the privilege of speaking to some amazing people with amazing stories.
Now, what about, I thought I'd go a bit further, what about goat and sheep's milk? Becoming quite popular. Very similar to cow's milk. So we don't use it in the first year of life, you can afterwards. And their nutrient profiles, how good they are, is pretty similar to cow's milk. Allergenicity, how often do they cause allergies? About the same. They're a bit more expensive sometimes. It's pretty equivalent.
Yeah, we're really excited, especially excited for Josh because it's his first book and he's really passionate with that Gen. Did you say Gen Z or Gen Z? I've heard it said
I don't know. I'm too old. I don't know.
Yeah, we're not in that age category, so we've not got a clue what they're called.
It's a pot boiler It's a good, exciting popcorn thriller. I didn't think it was anything too special, but I think watching it at home, people will probably enjoy it more than I did going to the cinema to see it. Really good film.
I love it. I walk into a cinema and I turn my phone off. Nobody can get hold of me for a couple of hours. I'm in a completely other world. Every single time I go to the cinema, and for me it's like going to Oz. It's like going to another world and escaping and relaxing, and I thoroughly enjoy it.
If you have missed any of these interviews or would like to hear them again, you can. Simply head over to our catch-up section at www.pure247radio.org. That's www.pure247radio.org.